So, good evening. For those of you who are familiar with my other channel, with my car channel, then you know that this is one of the video formats I use. I do not have any equipment in terms of computers, which would allow me for heavy, video editing and that sort of stuff. This is my little laptop I got. This is a model I bought in 2014 or 2015. It's an HP Pavilion 360 or something like this. And I'm running Windows 10 on it. And after 2,968 updates from Windows 10, this thing is pretty slow, even though I'm maintaining it. And anyway, this is basically my starting point. So today I wanted to get you up to date here on where I'm at with my planning. And the videos you have seen were done with my previous iPhone. I have now an iPhone 12. This was an iPhone 6, and that's why the video is in a square box rather than in the wide format as this one is, because this is now with my, oh my God, new. It's not new. This is, I bought that 2 years ago. So that is actually, when was it? 2020. So this is going to be 3 years old already. But prior to this, I had the iPhone 6. I think, yeah, it was iPhone 6 SE. And that's why the videos I made in the beginning of 2020, which all of the stuff is, when I bought this train stuff, when the coronavirus thing started, we were in the lockdown thing and I didn't know what to do, so I restarted this. At the same time, I have to zoom out. Now let me zoom. Let me see if the thing still let me zoom. No, it doesn't. I be damned. This is the Fleischmann catalog, the German one from 1979-1980. And I have the follow catalog here from 1979-1980 as well. And then I got an old Röver catalog from 1972-73. And this is basically my main things, is because I have the old pictures of the time when I was like 10, 12 years old when I started to set up my railroad. And I guess one day I can make a video of it. And my original railroad was basically 4 by 8 feet on a piece of plywood. And during the pandemic, I came across this book here from Fleischmann. It is plans or track layouts. And this was when they still had the steel tracks, as you can see in the picture here. These are the original steel tracks, which then were changed over to the brass tracks. And this thing is pretty neat, actually. A couple pages have come out. This is the first edition from 1956. So the part numbers in here, the 1600 series tracks, is all steel. Let me just see. By the 1970s, the tracks had changed with Fleischmann over to the brass type. And you can see this. They were then from the, what did I say, 1600? Yeah, 1600 series, went then over to these here, which are the 60 series. And this was before they had the ones with the, what do they call it underneath there? Basically the gravel and that stuff underneath. I don't know how they're called in English. But anyway, so this is basically the tracks I have now are the brass tracks as they're featured here with these part numbers here. And the 1600 numbers, when they changed from steel to brass, I think it was in the late 60s, have basically the same numbers. So a 1600 is the full length track. The 1601, we will look at this up, is this quarter track or half track, quarter track, and 1/8 of a track. That's how they're going through. And then they had a smaller one, which they had at that 60/05. And the same is for the radiuses, 60/20, 60/24, and so far and so on. I will explain this here in a second. The switches also had changed the way, and they went to these styles here, which have the tongues, but they have now only two sizes, the electrical one and the non-electrical one, and they're the same switch, but they have the electromagnet. You can plug this in or unplug it, so you can buy them manually and then buy the magnets later. And they have them as a radial switch, or as a straight one. So this is it. And before that, and they have the three-way one and the crossover. And before that, they had two different versions. I'm going to show you this now, and then we're going to explain this. I'm going to buy a house, and I think I mentioned it in my other video. And I'm planning this out now, so because I want to look at the basement. The book here itself, again, explains the steel tracks. So they started with 1600. There was 1600/2 was the half track, 1600/4 the quarter, and 16/8 was the 8th track. And this was based on an 8-inch track, which the 200 millimeter, what they have now, what is that exactly? Let me go back here. The 204 millimeters is, I think, exactly 8 inches. And we can calculate this here if I find my calculator. Let me see if we had the calculator here somewhere. I think it is in here. Oops. My calculator is here. So, does it start? Yeah, it should. There we go. So we have 204. You can see on how slow this thing is here. Are you working or are you not working? Here we go. So we have 204 divided by 25.4 millimeters to an inch. So that's right around 8 inches. So the 8-inch tracks basically they had back then is the same as today. So the 60 part numbers, what they're using, 6001, 6001, no, 6001, 6002, 6001, 6002, 6004, 6005, and now they have a 6004. 6005 is a little bit shorter, 180 some millimeters. But anyway, so this is basically the book I have been going through. I got this, and you can see this. They had some really, really nice layouts, and back then this was mostly on one place, and they put on all the information in here on how to wire it up and the switches. So now you have to translate the old type switches over to the new ones, and the interrupted tracks to basically apply power and to take power off. You see this down here at the 02 mark. I think you can see it here. Let me zoom in. I think the zooming works better. There we go. This is a cut track. And you can either turn power off or power on to the track to the left of it. So you could then use this and park a train there and use the same transform. Now all of this stuff is transformer based. And the layout I actually found, which I really liked, is this here. I can't even get this all in there. You can see this. Let me see. I have to zoom out now. Let me go a little bit further out so you get the full width of this here. This is layout B16 in this here. And the length of this is What was the layout? 169 inches as they have drawn this in here. 51 inches in width what is needed and 169 inches in length. And that would be in meters for those people who work with meters. Let's go and say we have a 169. Where's the clear button here? 169 inches divided by 12. That will give us the length in feet. That is 14.08 feet multiplied by, no, divided by 3.03 feet per meter. So this system, this track layout is 4.64 meters long, or 4.65. You can say 464 centimeters, or 4 meters and 65 or 64 centimeters. And the width on this was 51 inches. And 51 inches divided by 12 is 4.25 feet. That is pretty deep. It's a little bit wider than a 4-foot sheet, which makes it a little bit difficult to do this with regular plywood. And you would divide that by 3.03. So this would be 1 meter and 40 centimeters, 40.2 centimeters, 2 millimeters there. That gives you an idea on how big this actually is, just to give you an idea. This is my favorite track right now. So this is the main train station here. And then you have this is already with signals, so it is block operations, standard block operations. And it has multiple cut tracks in here, so you can then automatically, with their old push button switches down here, there in the left corner here, and here, and 3 transformers. This is for the switches, and this is for the signals. So the ones which have red and green, of course, that's obvious for the red light and the green light, and at the same time it turns the power on or off at the signal where the signal is placed. And here, for instance, is a, let me see where we can see this really good here on this one here. You have a double cut track here, and you have a signal here which runs with this signal, so it works in either direction. And they have a cut track, single cut track here, where this goes to signal group A, which is this one down here where it says A. So when this switch goes red to red, then this is open here, basically. This is how that worked roughly. And then they got the directions drawn in and which direction you can run, and you can do 2 trains with 3 transformers on there. So this is basically the basis I used to buy this stuff. And then I went online, and the first thing is I got the Arduino IDE software, and I used the software which is was available for the decoders from JMRI. This is the decoder. It's going to give us now encoder to the decoder in the locomotives for the digital systems. And that will give us that should give us an error now, because the USB is not hooked up JMRI. So this was my start, basically. You see this, I can't go on there because it's going to give us now an error that this is not connected. And what I really wanted to show you, so quit decoder. So there's no DCC++ on here, because I haven't hooked this up. But this is the E10 locomotive I have in the videos, which I converted with the first lock pro thing I had. So this is basically what this looks like. It here, Fleischmann E10 317 lock decoder, lock pilot, version 4 DCC. That is the first locomotive I have actually added into the database here. And this is the software which this fellow who wrote this software, this JMRI, supplied. And you have to compile this first in this compiler from Arduino. And then you have to download that compiled software into the Arduino board itself for this to be executing. And then this will talk, the Arduino board will talk to the lock decoder. This is basically the software here. So when we scroll down, you can see this. The guy wrote all of the software. I haven't made any changes to it. It's not the most up-to-date. This is version, let me see, DCC++, that's what that is called. And that worked. This is basically all the video stuff is basically made with the digital E10 I got is made between on this here and then run through the Decoder Pro and the Lock Pilot. But the other software I found and I bought is the Railroad Professional. This is the newer version. That's the 3.1 version. Let me open this one here up. And what I did is I converted the layout from the old numbers. This is 3.1. This is 3.0. Let me close 3.0 down. Yeah, here it comes. This is 3.1. And we should have our default here. Okay. Let me load this. You can see on how outdated my little... So I named this Peter. And this is basically the track layout as you have it in this book here is B16. Let me see if I can zoom this in that went the other way. And I transferred this over and I used the new or the 600X numbers from Fleischmann for this with the newer switches which are available on eBay. And I also bought some other brass track because I'm used to brass track. I have not used the newer nickel cadmium one. And so this is basically where I wound up, and I got a basic layout here, which is longer than the original one. I forgot now how long I made it. I think I made this whole thing 20 feet long. And this is probably 4 or 5 feet or 6 feet wide actually here. 6 feet to 20 feet. And then I extended this out as a U. That means I'm going to have some more railroad stuff over here and some more railroad stuff going in and interacting. So I will come in and we will have different themes here on the layout. And this has given me a basic idea of how big or how much space I will need in the basement when I have to, or when I'm going to look for my house, which I'm going to buy. You can see this, I put already a track in here, which hasn't gone anywhere yet for further expansion. And this track would then go probably on a second or third level down around here, and then coming back, you know, that kind of stuff, going like up a hill or up into the mountains and then going around here and then coming back in here or going straight and then feeding back into here. So this is how far I got with this. This just gave me a basic idea of what I would like to have and what I think I want at this point. And I have bought tracks and switches and all of this stuff on eBay already. In excess of this, what you're seeing here in all the different radiuses for the curved track, flexible track, and then regular straight track from Fleischmann primarily. And I got surplus, oh God, now I forgot it. They were made in the early 90s, and I got 600 straight tracks, 8 inches, because they were like $29 per box. I think 100 of them or 200 of them per box, something like this, and I bought them off eBay. They were still in the original packing. So I have, because one of the things, if you're into model railroading, is the straight tracks. One thing, you always wind up with more curves for whatever reason than with straight tracks. So I got plenty of straight track this time. But this is basically where I'm at. And what I'm going to do is what I did on my old railroad, and that circumvents a lot of problems, is some people, that is something I wanted to mention here, is at the connection point as they wind up soldering the two rails for each side together. I'm not a big fan of this. What I usually do is I run a wire on the side of the connection, usually on the inside where it is not as visible, all the way on the bottom, or I do it on the outside with a thin wire, and I connect them through, and then I usually secure the rail directly into the substructure, which is usually a plywood or something like this, with damping material so they cannot move. And then I do a feed line either to the same transformer or in this case to the DC power supply. There's going to be one every 3 tracks, so you're going to have about every 24 inches. I'm going to have a red wire on one side soldered to on the bottom on the side of the rail, and then a black wire on the other side for it. And they're going to go then for that particular, in this case, on all of them, because they're all just going to run on DC, to a very large size transformer. This way I have multiple feeds and feeds of the DC in there, and that will reduce any type of issues when the train runs with supply. It is similar to what the railroad does in the real world, with supplying this. They have multiple feeds and they're repeating this. And then these wires every 2 feet, that pair comes then underneath and they go into a distribution setup underneath, and they can be fused with automatic fuses. So if you have a short here, it will just pop out that segment, or it will just trip that. There's a wide variety of things you can do, but they come in basically in a star form that reduces the noise, and it keeps the rails basically fully supplied, and it alleviates the issue with dirt on it to a certain degree, and the whole system will run more stable. That's kind of where that is at. And then I have to see on how this is going to work with the digital decoder system, to see if I need multiple amplifiers to do this, or if you can just use one and then have a larger DC supply in there, since it should be enough to feed the digital signal on anywhere on one set of wires into the system. Since that travels basically all around and throughout the connected parallel wires then. This is something I will see then when I build this, what will be the best solution. But this way you have no voltage drops and you don't have to worry about it, especially on these larger, longer track segments. The voltage drop is going to be significant if you run this off a transformer. Say like you had a transformer for the inner circle and for this circle out here, if you would do it with 2, and you have just 1 feed, or even if you had 2 feet on these long distances, if you go in here with 12 volts, you're probably going to be at 10 volts or so on the outer sides of it. And if you have only 1, you probably may only get 8 volts out here. And all of that resistance basically is going to eat up your current from your transformer if you're using a regular, transformer controller to run the train analog. So this is kind of what I wanted to share with you today. And this video got a little bit longer, and then we will see. YouTube is not too friendly right now to the smaller YouTube people in terms of giving us time, in their feed system. So, and the videos are not getting as many views as they just did last year. I mean, I just started this channel last year. But if you can and if you want, it would be nice if you would like the video and if you could subscribe. And one day, hopefully in the next year or 2 years or so, I have bought my house and we can get started actually building all of the stuff. Since I accumulated now all of the track material and locomotives, engines, and cars and to a certain extent houses and stuff like that too. And then I can share some more tricks I have, how you do it. I watch other videos too, and I'm still learning because this is a hobby which you can keep for a long time, and you never stop learning. And at one point you have to kind of pass on your knowledge too to younger people. When I started this with the electrical, Fleischmann system I had, this was in 1978, Christmas 1978, when I was 11 years old. And my dad was not into the stuff at all. So I had no help whatsoever. My friends, who had the Märklin system, all of their dads had built this already. So they never got to build anything because it was already in existence by the time they were born. And they may have built one or two houses, but the layout, the way they had it at their houses, at their homes, was already done. So I was able to start from scratch, and I had to learn a lot. Oh, this is the one thing I wanted to mention. The one book from Follow, I don't know if this was ever published in English or not, is this here. It is called Modellbau leicht gemacht. And this book had an awful lot of, let me see if they had that in here. I had this book, I bought this. One thing was good because I had my aunt as had a bookstore, and so I was able to get books. I could call my aunt or write her a letter and tell her I needed this book or that publication or that catalog, and she would get it for me. She would put it in the mail, so that was pretty good. Let me just see if I find this real quick. They had that here advertised, and I forgot now what page this was on. Yeah. See, this is like what the book had in there, is this kind of stuff on how to make the masks for the inside so the interior lights would not shine through. And they showed you on how to glue these houses together. And then it looks like this here. You can see some windows have lights, others don't, and it doesn't shine through. That is kind of what this book did, that in the back here, this Modellbau leicht gemacht. That had a whole bunch of these suggestions in there on how to do stuff. Also with the creation of, lakes and that sort of thing. I cannot find it in here. Follow was the main source of my stuff, what I had back then. And then Kibri and Folmer were the secondaries. Yeah, no, I can't find it, unfortunately. Well, anyway, that will give you an idea, and hopefully we're going to get started. I have many more videos of the trains I got. I took these videos so I had a recollection of what I had actually bought, because everything is packed up. And after a while, even when you write it down, that locomotive and the other locomotive and that many cars of this and that and the other thing, is you can't remember it. So now I have them on video with the cars and that stuff, so I have a better idea what I have in my boxes when I unpack this. Because like I said, this was in 2020. I started buying this stuff, I would say, in March, when this really took off with this lockdown stuff. And I did that for 3 or 4 months, and I had bought basically everything I wanted, I thought I need, until we get further down the road, and we have this actually set up. Then we can actually, get more stuff we want to do. I may do this whole area, which is going to be probably 10, 15 feet long too. It's not quite the scale yet, but they're going to be longer here, these legs. And we're going to do the American scenery here, like the Western, and then the Ohio kind of area down there, Pennsylvania, and that sort of stuff. And so we kind of have then a theme: Switzerland, the mountains here, the Bavarian Alp kind of thing. And then this is going to be a kind of regular, city kind of set up with some smaller towns out of the primarily Fallow and Folmo and Kibri houses. And so America here, regular German stuff, and then Austrian Swiss stuff down here. That's kind of what I envision, but this is all very fluid at the moment. Anyway, leave me some comments, what you think, and your ideas you got, and what you think I should do. If I like it, I will pick it up and we put it in here, and then see if we can get this whole project going. Like I said, this is in the works. It's gonna take some time, but it should be interesting, and it might be interesting to other people as well. As we're building this, it may give you some ideas. And thank you again if you do subscribe, or if you have subscribed, and if you ring the bell and you hit the like button on this video. And with that, you have a great evening.